Welcome, everybody, to the Voices That Lead. I'm your host with the most, Natan Verkhovsky. I'm so excited to have Chris Steely with us today. We will be going into a deep dive on a couple questions, and it is so remarkable that when you have people of the most incredible caliber that have served and serve others in so many different ways, that it really puts a spotlight onto what service can mean in a multitude of ways. And it's an absolute treat. We're going to be looking at Chris and examining him through the filter of a couple key questions, and then maybe even a couple secret questions afterwards. So you'll have to stay tuned. Chris, how are you, man?
I love it, man. I love your voice, man. I love the idea of secret questions, and it's good to know that you are truly the host with the most. By the way, just so you
Thank you,
know.
thank you, thank you. Boop, boop, boop. All right. Do us a favor, because I would not do you justice. Take a couple minutes. Tell us about a little bit of your background, where you are, where you came from.
So I'm a purpose-driven leader, right? Basically a flesh and bone meat package that actually has a lot more going on behind the superficiality and what you see, right? So I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to is I'm the founder of a management consulting and facilitation practice that's dedicated to helping leaders achieve championship level performance. My background is championship level performance. I won a collegiate national championship in the sport of rowing, and I went on to coach the sport for many years. So it were kind of my business is kind of like a strategic coach for athletes, elite athletes, right? Focusing on
Mm.
business leaders, optimizing their mindset, operations, and execution for peak success. I got to earn my MBA, joined the Marine Corps, served a total of 24 years in and out of the United States Marine Corps as a logistics officer. So again, it's been a life of distinction, a life of service. I've become a certified award-winning corporate facilitator, working with service-oriented business leaders that understand the value of conditioning that high-level performance. And it's an international practice. I worked in Silicon Valley, was an IT executive there for a while. I've coached the people that coach and train 12,000 people per week in 26 countries with the world's largest business coaching franchise. Anyway, so that's my background. I'm a genius mind practitioner doing NLP. I've won awards again from the International Association of Facilitators for my facilitation. So again, purpose-driven life. I'm here to make a difference, and let's make a difference together. So there you go. How's that?
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you understand why I brought Chris over. This is Voices That Lead. We're here to focus on leaders' legacy limitless. And in that context, we get to be very cool and ask three key questions. Number one, we'd want to look at, how do you lead those that you serve?
Okay, so first question. What the first thing that comes to mind when I say that is the ultimate bastion of pure leadership, which I believe is the United States Marine Corps. And you're put into a position when I was 27 years old. Basically, we went off the war, so I joined the war effort, and I became an officer. And for me, the context of leadership, what really struck me when I became an effective leader was when I realized that leadership was not about me. It was all about the people that I lead. So for me, leadership is about empowering other people to be as effective as they can be as a unit. And once I think that it's about me and I have this ego and I want to be aggrandized and I want to have the bravado and everything, then I lose that essence of what true leadership is. So leadership is taking the spotlight off of me and truly, authentically shining it on my constituents and the people that are following me with a caring, loving orientation. So
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, in that context, when we look at it, and we're always trying to shine a spotlight, because if if you get to embody it, and if you get to really do it in a way that isn't self-serving, it's there for others and it's there to help others. A lot of the times you got to meet them where they are, and that's not easy to do because people are at different places along the journey. What have you found that what do you found that helps you, I guess, humanize that? Because you're going to have to meet people that you're going to have to really roll up your sleeves and get to work.
well, what comes to mind, Natan, is understanding and respect. Like I say, yeah, the way I just define leadership, it's almost like an essence. It's almost like an energy, right? And when I encounter other people that obviously don't have that essence, maybe they have a self-serving motive, right? Maybe they are ego aggrandized, right? Maybe they do want to overpower other people versus empower them, right? Or maybe they do have a motive that may not be as noble as a motive that I would think. Maybe their greed motive is what drives them. And I bump into people like that all the time. I have to honor, respect, and understand that. I mean, I've been there before. I'm a classic. I'm as human as anybody else is.
Sure.
But I think the imperative is to be respectful and empathize with them and go to that level of understanding and listen and care and draw them out by being somebody who's a listener, active listening, and creating a container of respect and authenticity and vulnerability, even with the people that I may not align with. So it's a holistic
Yeah.
respect and empathy and extending, you know, just the realization that they're all doing the best they can with what they've got, and
Yeah.
really having a heart for that and knowing that and extending that to them. I think that's probably my answer to your question. Yeah.
I love that. And I remember when you'd said, a little while earlier about empathy. And I had one of my mentors had said that the big difference between empathy and sympathy is if you go out on a cruise ship and you see some guy on the edge and he's just so seasick, he's thrown up over the side. If you come over and you sympathize with him, you feel what he feels. Now you throw up over the side. If you empathize with them, you go, oh shit, I understand what you're feeling. I'm just going to go get you a glass of water to help.
That's
I
it. I
don't have
love
to
that.
I don't have to go through what you're going through in
Right.
order to feel enough for you to empathize.
Right. And the thing is, there's people that try to convey empathy in a not authentic way, and that shows. You can actually feel whether or not somebody truly cares. I always do this. I always go to my heart, right? And you can feel that if somebody is doing false empathy because they're, hey, this is what I'm supposed to say and everything. These days,
Yeah,
especially these days, with this renaissance of understanding that's occurring in
sure.
consciousness circles, people see through that. You can actually feel whether or not somebody's authentically empathetic or not. You know.
I love that. And I remember when we met that it was one of those things that, I'd connected very strongly because you'd served. And I said, I never served. I've just done 40 years of martial arts, and that gives me a taste of the discipline.
Yeah, martial arts is huge. Been a big part of my life since I was a kid. My mother taught me kung fu, and
Oh,
then of
that's
course in the
amazing.
Marine Corps we use martial arts as a hand-to-hand combat mechanism. But for me, martial arts isn't about necessarily the combat or the defensive posture and everything. It's about the essence of the spirit and the somatic embodiment of resilience and competence. You know, the Bushido code comes to mind, right? And actually living from that space, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very much so. And I love that too, because I remember when I'd studied here and I'd, gone through half a dozen martial arts, and then I'd met one of my instructors, and he was classically trained Systema from Russia. He was a Russian commando, and in his capacity, he was at Cirque du Soleil. So he was an acrobat, and people wouldn't know that you're like also a fifth degree black belt and ridiculously lethal in multiple ways. And he's just sitting here, juggling and shit. It was absolutely incredible. And then I see this, and I see him fooling around. I was about 18, way back in another life. And I come up and I'm like, oh my God, you do martial arts? I do martial arts. I'm like, like an idiot, right? Wee! And so I pop in, and he's like, okay, I'm only going to hit you as hard as you hit me. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And I go to hit him. And next thing you know, he's behind my. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm about to kill you. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. He goes,
Wait
you
a second.
resist if you want. You die a hero. It's your choice. You die. You don't die a hero. You die a hero. Your choice. You resist. It's up to you. But either way, you're dead. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I came the other way. And again, I'm like, okay. So the lethality hit me so beautifully. And the concept that when I was at a guy's gym where I was training and paying for it, obviously, as a student, he did a spinning side kick, hit me in the stomach, I got winded, I flew back, and I'm like, and he runs over, he's like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, I know he cares on a human level, but I also represent money to him. When Sonia, my Spartan friend, did the same spinning heel kick, and I flew back and I landed, and I'm sitting there going, he just looked at me and said, ready? And I was like, okay, this is going to be hard style. Gotcha. I
And then you got ready, didn't you?
had no choice, brother. I had no choice.
That's the best thing is when I teach in my classrooms, because I teach, I eat my own dog food. I teach people how to do what I do. And an aspect of it is the wonderful thing about martial arts is the master knows only when to get back in balance when the master is thrown off balance. So be grateful when the feedback that you're receiving is forcing you to go off balance, because then and only then can you learn holistically and somatically how to actually write your course. And that applies on so many levels. And martial arts in the dojo is a great, again, metaphor for that. So
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let's go into the second question. What do you believe is your legacy?
so I am I'm a man of spirit, right? So in the context of legacy, for me, it's a spiritual essence, it's a responsibility. So knowing that I was put here for a reason, my creator was put me on this planet, again, in this flesh and bone meat package, for a reason. My legacy is to make that reason a reality, right? So we talk about the why. I mean, why do we do what we do? For me, it's not something that can necessarily be quantified. And as you can imagine, I've done all the work. I've articulated my purpose statement. I've refined it, defined it, gone to the mat with it and everything. But for me, ultimately, what it comes down to is legacy is all about leaving the world better than I saw it, which sounds so cliche, but in a way that's completely unique to my power, my competence, my responsibility to be this man that shows up and influences in only the way that I can influence. Therefore, people are going to see an example of that and ideally follow that example. I'll call that my legacy. So that's my answer.
I think that's very cool, Chris. I think that people need to, examine that. You got 17 words on your tombstone, and then it costs you $1.50 a word, and then you're like, oh, I can't afford this. So you're not going to have this like gigantostone with like 16 paragraphs on it. So conciseness is so impressive that you're like, what do you stand for? What do I believe in? What do I mean? Leaving that as a legacy is beautiful. I love that.
And well, I've got a eulogy. I've actually written my own eulogy, which basically further defines that as well. So
So let's look at that for a sec. Then is that the samurai, the Bushido code that I I have a funeral before I go to battle. My family says goodbye because I may not come back, and they truly kid say goodbye, and I truly say goodbye, and I'm gone, so that when I'm there, I'm there.
that's an aspect of it. Again, the cliche, right? The whole dying before you die, realizing that, I mean, here I am again. As a man of spirit, some of the time we cross the lines into belief systems that other people may not espouse. But I believe that knowing I was put here for a reason with a level of competence, that death for me is a noble move. It's a move into something else that's going to happen. And I've
Yeah.
come to terms with that in my life. I'm prepared to die. We've attached such a level of morbidity to that word. It's more about transition, right? So I am ready to do my best, knowing that my best is what I'm doing, and then I'll know that that's if I for some reason pass on after doing my best, I pass on with dignity and honor and respect and gratitude. So
Putting yourself there in that. Let me ask you. There's that great expression about the pain that hurts versus the pain that alters. How do
that's
you feel
funny.
about that?
As I reflect on that, I think of pain. In the Marine Corps, used to say that pain is weakness leaving the body,
I
right?
love that.
And also in the sport of rowing, rowing is the most cardiovascular and aerobic sport there is. I was rowing
Jeez.
in a regatta a couple months ago, and the boat next to me at the end of the race, a guy passed out. He had a heart attack. His heart exploded, basically.
Oh
So it was
goodness.
just, I mean, that kind of stuff happens. But it's about the pain and knowing, pushing through the pain and realizing that you get a condition. I get to condition myself to endure, right? So pain
Wow.
doesn't necessarily have to be brutal, right? Pain can be something that you embrace and learn to embrace over the value that it's bringing to you in the context of, you talk about spirit, the existential pain that oftentimes we are crushed by. But if we can ultimately surrender and realize that our creator would not subject us to a level of pain that we couldn't endure, I have a faith in that context, because I know whether it be physical pain, emotional pain, um, the pain of loss in my life. It's never necessarily fun to go back to those, to the essence of that, but also understanding what it's doing for me, what it's doing through me.
Mm.
So there's so much value in that.
There was somebody who'd asked me. They said that Natan, you'd said surrender to that, and I invite you to say embrace.
Hmm.
There's a fundamental difference. And I went, he's right. I got to listen to that guy. And he said, look, you're just hanging in there and hanging on. In Russian, there's a word called terpe, which means just bear down, tough it out, grit your teeth, and that's it. Just get through it.
Well,
And
in the Marine Corps, we say embrace the suck. That's what it is. It's going to
it's
suck. Sleeping all
gonna
night in the rain when it's freezing cold. It's going to suck.
it's
Embrace it.
gonna suck.
It's a
Yep,
suck.
it's gonna suck. And I think that mindset shift about embracing it, that's not about surrender to the suck. That's ridiculous. It's embrace the suck.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like letting it empower, letting it condition you. And it's never necessarily easy to do it, especially the first time, because you're like, why am I going through this gauntlet?
Yes.
But
Yes.
then on the other side of the gauntlet, you're like, oh, I get it now. And then after that, you realize the value of the pain, right?
Isn't it true that you always suck the first time you're going through anything anyway? So that's the next time you go
Right.
through, you will be better.
And that's one of the reasons people don't try, is because they don't want to fail, right? But the only back to martial arts in the dojo. As soon as you walk
Yeah.
into the dojo with a white belt, you're on your ass. I mean, you're thrown down.
Yeah.
If you're not ready for that and conditioned for that, people will turn around and walk out, not wanting to go into that gauntlet. Again, the initiation. That's one of the things, Natan, that I think we're really missing in life. You talk about legacy. We don't have enough initiation going on anymore. I've been initiated many times through my life, where it would be military, boarding school, college fraternity, Marine Corps. I mean, all these initiation. I mean, work like EST spinoff workshops. I mean, knowing ourselves. I believe that's what we get to do as leaders, is really know who we are, and that is understood through the process of going through the gauntlet, through the crucible, to be able to distill and refine and instill what gets to be who we are, right? As we surrender to that competence. And again, as a biased man, spirit, the competence and the essence of spirit. So.
I love that. If you're not biting off more than you could chew, how do you know you're growing or progressing or until you
It's not
throw
easy.
yourself
It's
into
hard.
it? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Until you throw yourself into it. And I remember I had a girlfriend that was doing basic training, and she was in Toronto, and I was in Montreal, and I was like, okay, it's about 6 hours. I had a cute little motorcycle. And that morning, I'm like, you know what? If I leave at 4 a.m, I could be there on time to watch her graduate. That'd be so cool. She'd be so unexpected. I didn't tell her nothing. There was a tornado coming. I'm like, I think I could beat it. So I'm on my cute little motorbike, and I'm like, yang, 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 and I'm in the middle of this storm, and you're just hanging on, and your hand is so wet, and I'm pulling over at gas stations to dry out mitts and gloves and stuff. When I got to the base, everybody was already inside at the I guess auditorium looking room. And so there was categorically no one, and I'm drenched head to toe, and I just went straight to the side of the barracks where they had the laundry machine, and I stripped butt naked, threw everything in the dryer, and just sat there on the dryer for 20 minutes, letting that dry, and then got to go see her in. But I'm like, going through that ceremony, going through that multiple times, life or death, where I'm trying, to just stay alive, it showed something. And I'm like, okay, so then it's not this crazy. Like there's so many times that if you're not tested, how do you know your mettle? How do you know your worth?
Brilliant. Couldn't have said it better myself, brother. That's awesome.
And people are like, I don't want obstacles. I don't want a hard life. I don't want difficulty. You sit there with your fat ass on the couch and like die very soon because it sucks. Like, why would you do this to yourself?
And it's one of the things that it's all about, frankly, Natan, is leaders are readers, right? There's so much cross-pollination that gets to be done. And, so many books I could recommend. And again, Ryan Holiday's got some really good prolific perspectives around how the obstacle is the way. That's the title of one of his books, right?
The obstacle is.
Right?
Yes.
Truly.
I remember back in the day they had that book, Who Stole My Cheese?
Oh, yeah. Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah.
Who Moved My Cheese? I'm like, I thought that was cute, but I'm like,
and then there was a sequel.
Yeah. Like we're getting so comically silly that even whether we're talking corporate or not, that we have to just get to these elementary, caricatures and stuff just so that people understand what we're talking about. I'm like, I think we can grow up.
And this is, by the way, I'm trying to respect the time here. We're going to go a little bit.
You got time? Go ahead, brother.
Everybody talks about storytelling, right? I want to know the moral of the story. I don't have time to hear a long, drawn out story. Just like in the book,
figure it out myself. No, tell me. Yes,
just tell me the moral of the story.
Yes, Thank you, Chris. I'm with you,
Yeah.
man. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you, as we move to the third question, where we look at if you had just one gift, one way to help somebody else become truly limitless, what would you think that would be?
So it's funny because as I consider what I do and how I do it, I'm a front of the room guy. Basically, I'm a stage guy. And what I specialize in the context of facilitation is creating a container of authenticity, vulnerability, and possibilities. And I've been doing this for a couple decades now, so I know how to do it. And it's about allowing people to understand. I mean, the gift I want to give people is allowing them to understand the gift that they have in the
Mm.
context of what their passion is. So as I'm leading teams of people or working with a room, knowing ideally in advance what some people's maybe hesitations are, what some of their blockages are. I do profiling, Natan. I love different profiling mechanisms. There's so many.
Neat.
And
Okay.
again, as we know ourselves, to be able to come into a space and know what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are and what our tendencies are in various mechanisms of getting objectivity on ourselves, and then going to that essence and realizing as I compel people to play from their strengths, allowing them to actually see what that really is, and then also shore up any weaknesses or blockages they might be having. That's the gift I want to give to people. And apparently, I've just, as I go through life, I've got a competence around that, and it's because I've embraced that capability that I've got because I've done the work. Right, I've gone to the mat on myself and understood. I feel like I understand who this flesh and bone meat package is. Right, the soul that's actually inside of this body. Right, and that's
When you
the work
speak to
I
that,
compel other people to do. So.
it's not a one-time shot. It's not a one-shot deal, right? It's not like,
Well, I
oh,
mean,
I looked at Chris at 20 and I'll never need to look at Chris again. You need to look at Chris at 30, at 40. Like, what do you mean? How many times have you re-examined Chris?
right. It's consistent. It's constant, right? It's like
Right? Okay,
it's like
good,
it's
good.
an evolution, you know.
Yes,
And I'm
yes,
always
it is.
growing. I mean, by the way, eventually one day I'm going to stop growing, and that's why I'm 6 feet under, right? But until then, I've got growth to do, you know. So
I love that. I love that. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you felt something on that, please let us know. You can throw a comment, like, and share in the chat. I'm going to put up a little something, something right now so that if you wanted to come and join us, if you felt that you're already at 9 out of 10 personally and professionally, if you feel that there's a space that you want to give and share, take a minute. Let us resonate with you.
Ever wonder what sets real leaders apart? It's not the corner office, it's the impact they make. Welcome to the Voices That Lead podcast with Natan Verkhovsky, where we dive deep with leaders who put service first. These aren't just CEOs or big names. They're people making a difference, building legacies through acts of kindness, mentorship, and heart. Every episode you'll hear powerful stories, straight from those who lift others up and inspire change. Looking for practical advice, authentic conversations, or just a spark to unleash your own limitless potential? You'll find it here. Because leadership isn't just about where you end up, it's about who you help along the way. Join the community and get inspired. Reach out to be a featured guest on the program. Leaders, legacy, limitless. Subscribe to the Voices That Lead podcast. Join us as a speaker and let others be inspired by you. Become the leader you're meant to be.
There we go. I'm going to try to unmute you, Chris. See if you can unmute yourself. I clicked that button by accident. Hold on. Let me make you full screen, and then let's go on your volume. There we go.
that's
Chris,
good.
can you hear me? There you
I got
go.
you now.
Back.
Yeah,
Awesome sauce.
beautiful. Good stuff.
All right. Welcome back. Guys, thank you so much for being here and playing in this little bit of a sandbox that we have. I hope you appreciate the value, the quality, the respect, the absolute longevity that Chris brings, that there's so much and it has so much meaning that I invite you to unravel it. I invite you to speak to the man himself, the myth, the legend. Go out there, see where he can come to you personally, professionally, at your company, your corporation, where he can hit you on a human level. Chris is an incredible person, and I'm so, so glad that we had you over here on the Voices That Lead. I think that was just absolutely wonderful. Chris, would you like to close off and let us know any other final thoughts?
So again, in the context of what I'm here to do, is everything we've talked about. We talk about legacy, mission, purpose. I'll challenge everybody to really know why they're here. What is it that compels you to live the life that we're living, that you're living, as we live in a world that frankly I don't recognize anymore. It's a world of division and uncertainty, and
Yeah.
getting into the context of who we are, who you are as a leader, and ultimately knowing thyself, doing the work, and then allowing that essence to distill from you so that we can all manifest what we were here to manifest and make the difference we were here to make. So that's my parting wisdom for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having us do that. And I can tell you that contact information is in the chat if you wanted to be on Voices That Lead. If you would like to reach out to the wonderful Chris Steely, oh my goodness, I highly, highly suggest you do. And we'll be back shortly, and you got to go visit us over on YouTube. There may be a couple secret questions that, if you liked what Chris said now, oh my goodness, when you hear him answer the secret questions, it's worth the subscribing. There's no cost, but it's worth you clicking the little button. It's going to be epic. Until then, Chris, as I say to everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Be kind to each other.
My pleasure, Natan. Thank you.